Good morning, Trinity Baptist Church. Today we're continuing going through these three stories that Brenda Salter McNeil points out in her first chapter in Roadmap to Reconciliation. Again, I think you can get the ebook for free, and I can send you a link if you email me. But it's a good book, so I bought it as well. Three stories that she points us to in the Bible, and I think she helps us see a connection between these three stories: Genesis 1 and the creation of people and God telling them to go and fill the earth and subdue it, which we talked about yesterday. Genesis 11 and the Tower of Babel, which we'll talk about today, and then Pentecost, which we'll get to tomorrow. If you remember, God in Genesis 1 tells people, go fill the earth and subdue it. And what Dr. Salter McNeil pointed out that I found really helpful was, as we're told to go to these different places and climates with different flora and fauna, of course culture is going to develop. Different cultures are going to develop. And that's part of what God has sent us out to do, to go to all the corners of the earth and find out what kind of life and community can be fostered there, and to foster it and be creative and develop these cultures. But this is what happens in Genesis 11, and it's interesting to read in the context of Genesis 1. Genesis 11, 1 through 9 says, "Now the whole earth had one language and the same words. And as people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. They said to one another, 'Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly.' They had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar, and then they said to themselves, 'Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth.' And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of man had built. And the Lord said, 'Behold, they're one people, and they all have one language, and this is only the beginning of what they will do. And nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech.' So the Lord dispersed them from there over the face of the earth, and they left off building the city. Therefore its name was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth. And from there the Lord dispersed them over the face of all the earth." It's really interesting to read Genesis 11 right after reading Genesis 1, because these things have happened with Adam and Eve and Noah and his family, but here we're picking up again the story of God telling humanity, fill the earth and subdue it. And really, the story of the Tower of Babel is the story of people saying, no, we will not do it. We're going to stop right here in the land of Shinar. We're going to build ourselves a tower, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth. But of course, that's what God told them to do. Go fill the earth and subdue it. And God comes down and says, this is not good that they only have one language, that they are only one people. And so he gives them different languages and disperses them over the surface of the earth, giving them a pretty strong nudge to go and do what he put them on earth to do, fill the earth and subdue it. You know, it's interesting to think about the Tower of Babel as this effort to find our place, batten down the hatches, circle the wagons, and not be interested in going to the ends of the earth. Not be interested in the idea that God put us on a very varied planet that could host many cultures and peoples and customs and traditions, and instead say, no thanks, we'll just set up right here and have one language and be one people. We do similar things today. That's why Dr. Salter McNeil points us to this story, because we do similar things today, saying, no, this is one culture is enough, thank you. Our customs are enough, thank you. Our language is plenty. When really, as people, the whole of humanity, God has appointed us to fill the earth and subdue it, to, as we are under him, to have good dominion over the earth, making it good and turning the raw materials of this planet into thriving life and culture and community. So rather than the Tower of Babel, rather than building these kinds of towers, we would do better to focus on what God sent us out to do in the first place, to fill the earth and subdue it, as we follow him to lead the whole planet in pleasing Him.